Abby. Welcome to my New York City kitchen. Today I am with Serena Wolf, a chef and author of The Dude Diet. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Hey, and we're doing one of her great recipes, so why don't you tell us what we're making?
This is a Caprese Quinoa bake. So it's based on the traditional salad, you know, that's fresh mozzarella, tomatoes, basil, balsamic, all the good stuff. And it's sort of in a whole grain casserole form. So it's a great vegetarian meal, but it's also like a perfect summer side. It also looks really beautiful on the table, so it's good for entertaining.
All right, so vegetarian, lots of cheese, which I enjoy, but some good tomatoes, some quinoa. We'll kind of walk through the ingredients and talk everyone through stuff. So first, let's say we're going to start with the quinoa.
Yes, so I don't know if you've noticed this. I feel like as a chef, you're probably not reading the back of boxes, but the package directions lie. So I always want to tell people this. It says to cook quinoa with like a 1-to-2 quinoa to liquid ratio. It's 1 to 1.5, otherwise you're gonna end up with mush. So for the perfect fluffy quinoa, people, 1 to 1.5.
All right, you heard it here first.
Yes.
One other thing that I like about quinoa, which is why we have red here today, is the red, I find, is more al dente.
Yes.
You get more of a bite to it than the white, which you can get mushy quicker.
Absolutely. So. While that's cooking, you're gonna roast some cherry tomatoes. You could use, you know, any colored tomatoes, heirloom cherry tomatoes, or you could dice up like a Roma tomato and roast it. So 400 degrees, you're just gonna drizzle them with a little bit of olive oil, hit them with some salt and pepper. They go straight in the oven. It takes 10 minutes, and you can see like the skin bursts a little bit, and they're really juicy, and they make like a little bit of a sauce.
It's beautiful.
So the only real cooking we're gonna do right now is cook some shallots and garlic. So if you want to turn the heat on over there.
I'm gonna turn the heat on. I like to get my pan hot before I put in the oil.
And if you didn't want to use shallots, you could obviously use a small yellow onion, just mince that up. Red onion will also do. So we're just gonna cook these for like 2 to 3 minutes. Obviously, always be very careful not to burn the garlic. I think that's something that people tend to get scared of, and it does actually ruin the flavor of the dish if the garlic is burned. So if you see it starting to brown, don't panic. Just turn down the heat a tiny bit.
That's actually a really good point. So one thing you can do is what I just did, which is put the onion and the shallot in first, let that get going, and then for the garlic, if you see anything happening, just turn the heat down.
Basically, what we're gonna do once these are cooked is just assemble the filling for the casserole. So all of these good ingredients are gonna go in there, the cooked quinoa, these roasted tomatoes, the garlic and shallots, a little bit of basil, and that has so much flavor. And I'm always telling people, like, you don't need a million ingredients to make a dish that's super flavorful. Sometimes you just need like really bright, good flavors that go well together, and
you're good to go, and especially fresh. So if it's cherry tomato season, like these are gonna be even that much better, but you can get these things year round. Quinoa, plant-based protein source, a ton of fiber and other minerals and vitamins, always good. Really great vegetarian source of protein and everything else.
I do wanna say though, if some people have, you know, issues digesting quinoa. If you're not a big quinoa fan, you can easily use brown rice. The only whole grain that I sort of tell people to avoid in this particular dish is farro, because it has like a really strong nutty flavor, and that chew sort of overpowers the texture of the dish. I always tell people, you do you. There's lots of flexibility in recipes. You should use what you have on hand and don't worry so much about following the recipe exactly.
When you cook tomatoes, the lycopene in them actually becomes more accessible to us. If you put oil with the vitamin C or other things that are in the tomatoes, your body can also absorb those vitamins and nutrients better.
I did not know that. So these two cheeses, I do want to talk about mozzarella briefly, just as a general prep tip. If you're grating or slicing mozzarella, it can be really soft. So you're gonna wanna have something that's a little bit harder. So I just pop my mozzarella in the freezer for like 15 minutes.
That's very smart.
And then, you know, I will sometimes grease my knife with a little bit of olive oil to just slice through that. It's not gonna be frozen at all. It's just like a little bit harder. And then you'll get these like perfect slices, because you know, sometimes they tear apart and they're sort of all uneven, which again, doesn't matter, still will taste delicious. And grating is really difficult with fresh mozzarella. I like to use fresh mozzarella for this, but if you wanted to use store-bought pre-shredded, that's absolutely fine. And you could do, instead of doing this pretty topping that we're gonna do, which is the selling point of this casserole, you could sprinkle the whole thing and it'll look more like a pizza, but that's Still
That
very
works,
exciting.
too. Works very, very true. So just a side note, I turned this off. It's starting to brown, and we're gonna move it into this bowl in a second, but I turned it off so that we won't go overboard, and it's a little bit golden, which is perfect.
Perfect. So we're just gonna actually combine all of these things. It's such a simple recipe.
All right.
And then we're gonna add, I don't know if we're gonna need all of this, so we'll add like 2/3 of that.
Okay.
And then give this, you're really just gonna fold all of this together. And the cheese, you'll see the cheese will start to melt.
And then do we want some of this now?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, now be careful. If you used a cast iron, the handle gets hot too, so you
Very
just have to be a little careful. So I'm gonna pull this over for Serena, and she can kind of dump it out for me.
you.
And then we're gonna use this same cast iron to put the whole casserole together, which is
not trying to make excess dishes for ourselves to clean. Okay, so we got all of that in there, and then I'm gonna add a big old handful of this basil.
awesome.
And that's gonna add a ton of freshness and just some good color in there. And if you wanted to work some more just greens in, you could add arugula is delicious. It gives it a little bit of a peppery flavor, some baby spinach, baby kale, just a good way to get some extra greens. Okay, so
Oh, it looks so
look
beautiful.
how pretty it is.
All right, and now we're gonna put it back in here, is that right? All right.
So as you can see, everything's just good and combined. So we're just gonna sort of gently smooth this. It doesn't need to be perfect. We just wanna have a good base for the pretty topping that we're gonna make.
Excellent.
And so what we're gonna do is sort of form concentric circles, starting in the middle, and you're just gonna alternate slices of mozzarella and tomato.
Like a caprese salad.
Caprese, exactly. This looks exactly like a caprese salad. A traditional caprese, as you know, doesn't have this quinoa base, but it's just tomatoes, fresh mozzarella, olive oil, balsamic, some salt and pepper, and basil. It's such a simple salad, and
totally
it's
simple.
a summertime staple. And again, this is one of those things that you could absolutely assemble this up to about a day in advance, but if you can wait to add the topping, like you could make this base up to a day in advance.
It's great too if you're one of those people that makes quinoa or rice ahead of time and you just have it in the fridge.
Yeah, then this is literally going to be a 15-minute prep situation. So we're going to cover this really loosely with foil if you've got any of that. I don't know how hot this is. Like, I will touch it gently. You're just going to tent it loosely, and this is going to keep it from getting too brown on the top. But we're just gonna pop this in the oven for about 20, well, we'll do it for 10 minutes with the foil on, then we'll pull the foil off, and that's gonna get that sort of bubbling brown mozzarella. But if you're not into any browning action, you can leave the foil on the whole time.
Perfect. All right, and we have it on 400 degrees, so I'm gonna sneak in here and put it right in the oven. All right.
And then, while that's in the oven, if you will do me the honor of reducing a little bit of balsamic vinegar. So reducing balsamic gives it this like wonderful sweet syrupy consistency. You can absolutely buy store-bought balsamic syrup. I prefer to reduce my own because a lot of the syrups have added sugar, and you really don't need it with balsamic. It has that natural sweetness that really will just intensify as we let it simmer. It usually takes like 4 minutes. You just wanna swirl it around and like go for the consistency of maple syrup. When you're reducing something, you're basically just reducing the volume of the liquid that you started with, and anytime you're reducing something, it's obviously gonna go from pure liquid to a sort of syrupy, concentrated version of that liquid.
Yeah, so you're almost evaporating some of the moisture.
Yes.
So if you have 1 cup of water and you boil it, then suddenly you have half a cup of water. But if you do something like balsamic vinegar or orange juice or something like that, when you actually reduce it, the sugars and everything else in it become more syrupy. So the water part evaporates off, but everything else is left.
And even if you do that with like a stock or a broth, it's really gonna concentrate the flavors. So it's a great way to do that without having to, add sugars or things like that.
Okay, so we just made our balsamic glaze, and I'm going to grab our beautiful.
I will step away so it's
Now it's gonna be super hot. Careful.
Oh, look how pretty she is.
Beautiful, my goodness. Sometimes I'll put a little thing on the end just to signify, don't touch this.
This is good to go. You always are gonna wanna wait 10 minutes to serve this. It is scald, scar you for life hot right now. But if you wanna go ahead and drizzle that balsamic. So this is our balsamic syrup. It's really thick and syrupy.
Oh yeah, that looks gorgeous.
And that's just gonna really hit it with like a pop of acidic sweetness that's gonna brighten up all the flavors. And there's so many great flavors.
Oh yeah, it'll cut through like the cheese too in like a nice way.
And then, last but not least, I always need fresh greens on everything.
Oh, it looks so beautiful.
And that's it.
All right,
We're done. Caprese Quinoa bake.
This
Perfect
is awesome.
for summer. It really is the ultimate on a cooler summer day when you want something that's hearty and comforting. It's great. It's also great at room temperature.
That's actually a very good point. It probably would be good cold too, maybe.
Yes. I mean, let's be real. Anything with that much mozzarella on it is going to taste good at any temperature.
So thanks to Serena for stopping by. If people want to find you, what's the best way they can do that?
You can find me at Serena G. Wolf on social and at domesticate-me.com.
Excellent. And also the Dude Diet.
Yes.
On bookshelves everywhere. I'm Abby.
And I'm Serena.
Thanks for joining us today on My New York City Kitchen. See you next time. Bye.